So, the purpose of this experiment is to see what data packets are sent out from a computer when it boots, just in terms of how many and what kind of density there is without analyzing too much. And what I have is two different computers, a little laptop with Windows 10 on it, and another little laptop with Ubuntu, one of the latest LTS version on it. And the idea is to allow those computers to boot connected to the network via this Ethernet cable, and the Ethernet cable goes through another computer which is running Linux, Ubuntu 20.3, the LTS version, and that computer is set up as a bridge. And the idea of the bridge, Ethernet bridge, is that it has two ports. One of the ports is this one, which is going to be connected to the device under test, and the other Ethernet port is connected to the internet router here, so that all the traffic in and out is monitored through this bridge. And how I set up the bridge, if I can get the right mouse, is using the NM connection editor in Ubuntu, which you can run just like this, and that looks like this. And what you need to do is to create a bridge, which I've already done, bridge connection number 1 it's called. And if you look at the details of that, all I did was to add two slave ports, slave 1 and slave 2, to this bridge called bridge 0. And slave 1 and slave 2 are the two Ethernet ports on the computer that you see in this big screen here. So the two ports are connected to the bridge. The bridge, one side is connected to the internet, and the other side is going to be connected to the device under test. So let's try the Ubuntu laptop first. All I'm going to do is plug in, if I can find the Ethernet port here, and then I'm going to switch it on. And I'm monitoring it using two other programs, which are, of course, this one, which is Wireshark. Let's minimize that. This is Wireshark, capturing packets from ENP2S0 interface. That's the one connected to the laptop that I'm testing. And as you can see, although it's recording, there's no data flowing because the laptop is switched off. And this is a program called EtherApe, which you can run from the command line. And this will show a graphical overview of the connections that are made to various IP addresses. So let's turn on this Ubuntu laptop. Just press the power on button. It'll take a few seconds to start up, of course. And let's see what will come out in terms of data packets and network connections. It's just booting up now. While I'm doing that, I'm going to start this Windows computer so that I can turn off the Wi-Fi, because I don't want it to use Wi-Fi. I want to use that Ethernet connection. So the Ubuntu computer is starting up. You can see a few packets already have started to appear, even before Ubuntu is almost started. Here we go. It's talking to the router here. It's talking to my various internal devices, mostly, and some outside. And as you can see, it's starting to build up some connections in the internet to various destinations. Doesn't look too bad, but there's some activity there. I'm turning off Wi-Fi at the same time on my Windows laptop, ready for the second part of the experiment. So let's just turn off the Wi-Fi here. Okay, we need that for later. And I'm going to shut it down. There's no web browser running on the Ubuntu computer. I'm going to log into it now so that we can see what happens when I log in. I have to remember the password. There we are, just logged in, and you can see the number of connections is increasing on the EtherApe diagram, and a few packets are being captured. And as you can see, it's probably checking for updates. The fatness of the red line shows the quantity of data that's flowing, the traffic. Didn't last for long. And that computer is now booted. What I'm going to do next is I'm going to check for updates, and that will look at the Ubuntu update servers, and again probably some data will flow. I'm still shutting down my Windows laptop. Okay, so that's ready. Let's just use the graphical updater as easier, software updater. So I've clicked on that, and now it's going to go and check the Ubuntu repositories to see what updates there are and ask if I want to download them. You can see the activity there with various connections. I'm not going to analyze what those IP addresses are. Some of them will be resolved to names Some are just left as IP addresses. You can see anyway, there's the activity. Doesn't look too drastic. So what I'm going to do now is, I think I'm just going to unplug the Ethernet connection. I'm going to close this EtherApe program because that will quickly delete all of the information that it's collected. So let's do that. Unplug the network connection, and plug the network connection now into my Windows laptop, which should have an Ethernet port on it somewhere. Oh, there it is. Okay, it's on the other side. So let's plug that in. The Wi-Fi is turned off. Oh, it's upside down. That's interesting. Never noticed that before. And I'm going to do the same thing again. So let me just restart the EtherApe program. The Wireshark is still recording, but as you can see, there's nothing to record. What I'm going to do actually is I'm going to stop it and start it again. I don't want to save that, just so we can start with a fresh screen. And then, using the terminal, I'm going to restart EtherApe, which is here. I need the right keyboard, that one. Okay, password. So that's now running. Good. Let's put it, whoops. Let's use the right mouse on the right computer and put that up there. What I'm doing is capturing the video output from the Linux bridge using an HDMI capture module, HDMI to USB 3, which is then being inputted to my other computer, OBS, which is recording the video. So there we are. That seems to be working. Let's minimize that. There's a bit of activity already on that port, but it's not coming from the Windows notebook computer yet. So let's turn it on. So hopefully, yeah, the Windows computer is going to start now. Are we looking at the right interface? No, we're not. That's the problem. I need to change the interface. Capture. We need interface, which is that one. That's the output from the laptop. And let's see what's happening as the laptop starts up. You can see there's some packets flowing already on the Wireshark capture, and as you can see on the EtherApe display, there are some connections being made. Okay, let's log in to the Windows 10 computer. So I'm logging in now. Let's see what kind of activity is there. Oh, it's getting busy. Yeah, there's some activity there. Looks like a bit more activity than there was with Ubuntu. Again, it's checking for updates from Microsoft, and it's connecting to a few other places as well. That's interesting. Mr. Windows, thank you. Let me just check for updates on Windows to see what happens. So how do we do that? We have to use settings, update, and let's see. Oh my goodness, the screen is beginning to fill up with connections. Each one of those IP addresses is a connection node that this Windows computer is connected to, and those are not all internal in my network. Those are all over the place externally, and you see there's a lot of data flowing. The big fat red lines show data flow. Let me just hit the check for updates button, because although it says it's checking, sometimes it isn't until you hit the button and then it checks again. Now it's really checking, and you can see there's quite a lot of data flowing and quite a lot of connections with data flowing in both directions. That's interesting, not just in, but also out. Oh, bam. I think we've got a bit of a data flow overload now. While Windows is checking, it's found a security intelligence update for Microsoft Defender. And apart from that, this computer is doing nothing. This Windows computer's got no other programs running, no web browser, no nothing. I'm not looking at any websites. But as you can see, the computer all by itself is looking at plenty of IP addresses and stuff. One day, maybe I'll analyze what some of those are. But that's not the purpose of this video. All I wanted to do was compare how much data flows and how many connections are made with a Windows computer compared to a Ubuntu Linux computer, just to get some idea of how verbose it is. And I think that gives a first impression quite nicely. So that's it for this video. Let's see what I decide to do next. Oh, don't forget to press the like button and subscribe if you want to keep up to date.